Miss Jecka, can you see me? Can you hear me? Is it working? Let's see. Let's hope that today works a little bit better than yesterday, which was terrible. Okay, Paul says yes, it's working. Okay. So I don't know if y'all were able to see or hear anything yesterday. So like, oh, you did get to watch a little. All right, I just don't know where exactly to start. Y'all heard Bill shoot through the air. You heard very little. Okay, well then I'm gonna start with the part where, let's see here. Okay. You did hear about Bill. Did you hear Bill getting like kind of crashing through the thing? Because if not, I'm gonna start right there. Yes, no. Okay. No, all right. I'm gonna start right there. All right. So here's Alice. Alice is like gigantic size in the rabbit house. She wants to get out, but the rabbit's really mad that there's like a gigantic girl in his house, so he keeps going for Bill. All right. She waited for some time without hearing any more. At last came a rumbling of little wheel carts. Or I'm sorry, not wheel carts, little cartwheels, and the sound of a good many voices all talking together. She made out the words. Okay, pause for a second. You know, I said that wrong, but I just realized for the first time what a cartwheel is in gymnastics. It's when you go around in a circle like the wheel of a cart. Never thought about it before. Okay, so she made out the words. Where's the other ladder? Why, I hadn't to bring but one. Bill's got the other. Bill, fetch it here, lad. Here, put him up at this corner. No, tie him together first. They don't reach half high enough. Oh, they'll do well enough. Don't be particular. Here, Bill, catch hold of this rope. Will the roof bear? Mind that loose slate. Oh, it's coming down. Heads below. Now, who did that? It was Bill, I fancy. Who's to go down the chimney? Nay, I shan't. You do it. That I won't then. Bill's got to go down. Here, Bill, the master says you've got to go down the chimney. Oh, so Bill's got to go down the chimney, has he? Said Alice to herself. Why, they seem to put everything upon Bill. I wouldn't be in Bill's place for a good deal. This fireplace is narrow, to be sure, but I think I can kick a little. So yesterday when the video was going and I was kind of talking to myself, I was thinking of my friend. Like, I have a friend in real life named Bill, and I wonder if this is how he feels in his house. She drew her foot back as far as the chimney she could, waited till she heard the sound of a little animal, she couldn't guess what sort it was, scratching and scrambling about in the chimney close above her, then saying to herself, this is Bill. She gave one sharp kick, pow, and waited to see what would happen next. Poor Bill, guys, poor Bill. The first thing she heard was a general chorus of, there goes Bill! And then the rabbit's voice alone, catch him, you by the hedge. And then silence. And then another confusion of voices. Hold up his head. Brandy now. Don't choke him. How was it, old fellow? What happened to you? Tell us all about it. Last came a little feeble squeaking voice. Oh, that's Bill, thought Alice. Well, I hardly know. No more, thank you. I'm better now. But I'm a deal too flustered to tell you. All I know is something comes at me like a jack-in-the-box, and up I goes like a skyrocket. So you did, old fellow. Okay, you need to see this picture of Bill. Here is the big reveal. He is a lizard, and here he is, like, flying out of the chimney. Boyette kids, since you told me that you had a whole bunch of animals at home, this is what you should show your animals for when they misbehave. Okay. We must burn the house down, said the rabbit's voice. And Alice called out as loud as she could, if you do, I'll set Dinah on you. There was a dead silence instantly. Do next. If they had any sense, they'd take the roof off. After a minute or two, they began moving about again, and Alice heard the rabbit say, "Barrel full ought to do." To begin with, a barrel full of what? Thought Alice. But she had not long to doubt, for the next moment a shower of little pebbles came rattling in at the window, and some of them hit her in the face. "I'll put a stop to this," she said to herself, and shouted again, "You better not do that again," which produced a dead silence. Alice noticed with some surprise that the pebbles were all turning in size, and as it can't possibly make me larger, it must make me smaller, I suppose. Now, number one, if you guys want to like hit me with little pebbles that turn into tiny, tiny, tiny cakes, you can do that. I would eat them. Number two, I wish that I could eat like a magical kind of cake that would make me get smaller instead of cake sized. And I say that because I baked myself an entire pan of brownies last night. They're delicious. Okay. So she swallowed one of the cakes and was delighted to find that she began shrinking directly. As soon as she was small enough to get through the door, she ran out of the house and found quite a crowd of little lizards. Of little animals and birds waiting outside. The poor little lizard Bill was in the middle, held up by two guinea pigs who were giving it something out of a bottle. They all made a rush at Alice the moment she appeared, but she ran off as hard as she could and soon found herself safe in a thick wood. "The first thing I've got to do," said Alice to herself as she wandered about in the wood, "is to grow to my right size again. And the second thing is to find my way into that lovely garden. I think that will be the best plan." It sounded an excellent idea, no doubt, very neatly and simply arranged. The only difficulty was she had bark just over her head, made her look up in a great hurry. "Oh, it's Jamie. Hi, Jamie." An enormous puppy was looking down at her with large round eyes and feebly stretching out one paw trying to touch her. "Poor little thing," said Alice in a coaxing tone, and she tried hard to whistle to it, but she was terribly frightened all at the same time at the thought that it might be hungry, in which case it would very likely eat her up in spite of all her coaxing. So when you were little, did you read Clifford the Big Red Dog books and have like a fantasy of what it would be like to have like a gigantic sized dog? Well, I'm going to show you the illustration of this gigantic puppy. Here is the gigantic puppy, and here is Alice with like a little stick. So, I don't know. Having a gigantic sized puppy is probably pretty awesome. I mean, Clifford, he's pretty awesome. Maybe the writer of Clifford read this book, and then that's how they were inspired. Okay. Hardly knowing what she did, she picked up a little bit of stick and held it out to the puppy, whereupon the puppy jumped into the air off all its feet at once with a yelp of delight and rushed at the stick and made believe to worry it. Then Alice dodged behind a great thistle to keep herself from being run over, and the moment she appeared on the other side, the puppy made another rush at the stick and tumbled head over heels in its hurry to get hold of it. Then Alice, thinking it was very like having a game of play with a cart horse, and expecting every moment to be trampled under its feet, ran round the thistle again. Then the puppy began a series of short charges at the stick, running a very little way forwards each time and a long way back, and barking hoarsely all the while, till at last it sat down and a good way off, panting with its tongue hanging out of its mouth and its great eyes half shut. What's going on over here? The never-ending Falcor. This seemed to Alice a good opportunity for making her escape. So she set off at once and ran till she was quite tired and out of breath, until the puppy's bark sounded quite faint in the distance. Yet what a dear little puppy it was, said Alice, as she leaned against a buttercup to rest herself. I wonder, are buttercups just daffodils? I don't know this. I have daffodils in the backyard. Oh, Tess is here, and she read them. Okay. and fanned herself again. Let me see, how is it to be managed? I suppose I ought to eat or drink something or other, but the great question is, what? The great question certainly was, what? Alice looked all around her at the flowers and the blades of grass, but she couldn't see anything that looked like the right thing to eat or drink under the circumstances. There was a large mushroom growing up near her, about the same height as herself, and when she looked under it and on both sides of it and behind it, it occurred to her that she might as well look and see what was on the top of it. She stretched herself up on tiptoe and peeped over the edge of the mushroom, and her eyes immediately met those of a large blue caterpillar that was sitting on the top with its arms folded, quietly smoking a long hookah and taking not the smallest notice of her or of anything else. So a couple of things here. Number one, mushrooms. So we've been like a little bit jokey in this book about how Alice eats and drinks things that are like stranger danger gives them and then nothing happens to her. This is the one that I'm going to like give a very strong statement that mushrooms are something that like never, ever, 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 ever eat a mushroom that you like find in the backyard or in the forest or something, because a lot of them actually are poisonous and you could get very sick. You could even die. So mushrooms are something that you eat when you are in a restaurant, when you are in your family's kitchen, or somebody who is like a super duper, you take a little nibble and then, oh, this fun thing might happen. That's something you really, really want to be sure that you know what you're doing. So number one, Alice, I don't feel like you're an expert, Alice. Number two, have you guys been getting mushrooms in your backyard? Because since it's been raining and raining and raining so much last week, I have all these little mushrooms everywhere and they're adorable. And I keep thinking that there's going to be like Smurfs there. Yes. Yeah. No to backyard mushrooms. But they're adorable. I mean, we look at them, we can draw them, we can sketch them, but you know, Jamie, please remember there's children here. So there's that. And then number two, the caterpillar. So caterpillars are my enemies because I garden and they are my enemies. Number two, it says that the caterpillar is smoking a hookah. So I'm going to show you the illustration so you can see a picture of a hookah. Now see, it's got sort of a bottle and then these long, long pipes coming out of it. So hookahs are something that you can see in the Middle East, and you can even see in a lot of restaurants. Like I know for sure here in Fort Worth where I live, there's a restaurant that has hookahs and they put tobacco in it and people can smoke that tobacco. So a lot of times a hookah will have many long pipes coming out of it. So multiple people can sit around in the Middle East, both in the 1800s and still now today. Oh, there you go, flying carpet. So when we first started this book, I told you that this book is a lot like The Wizard of Oz in that there's a little girl, she goes on a magical adventure and she meets all these like crazy creatures. But the big question in The Wizard of Oz is, how do I get home? Where am I? How do I get home? But the big question in Alice in Wonderland is, who are you? So let's see what the caterpillar says. It's a real sassy caterpillar. So this is chapter 5, Advice from a Caterpillar. The caterpillar and Alice looked at each other for some time in silence. At last, the caterpillar took the hookah from its mouth and addressed her in a languid, languid, lazy. So if you're talking in a languid way, you're not talking fast, you're kind of talking slow. Who are you? Said the caterpillar. This is not an encouraging opening for a conversation. Alice replied rather shyly, I hardly know, sir, just at present. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have changed several times since then. What do you mean by that? Said the caterpillar sternly. Explain yourself. Well, I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir, said Alice, because I'm not myself, which technically is true. A lot of weird stuff has happened to Alice, and she's gotten bigger and smaller, and, who knows. Because I'm not myself, you see. I don't see, said the caterpillar. Well, I'm afraid in a day is very confusing. It isn't, said the caterpillar. Well, perhaps you haven't found it so yet, said Alice, but when you have to turn into a chrysalis, and you will one day, and then after that into a butterfly, I should think you'll feel it a little queer, won't you? Not a bit, said the caterpillar. Well, perhaps your feelings may be different, said Alice. All I know is it would feel very queer to me. So, the caterpillar's a little sassy, but also Alice is a little insensitive because she's like, oh, it's so strange to change sizes and go through all these changes. But of course, the caterpillar is going to transform. It's going to have a metamorphosis into the chrysalis, little cocoon, and then into a beautiful butterfly. So the caterpillar's like, I don't think it's strange. You, said the caterpillar contemptuously. Who are you? Which brought them back again to the beginning of the conversation. Alice felt a little irritated at the caterpillars making such very short remarks, and she drew herself up and said very gravely, well, I think you ought to tell me who you are first. Why? Said the caterpillar. Now here was another puzzling question, and as Alice could not think of any good reason, and the caterpillar seemed to be in a very unpleasant state of mind, she turned away. Come back, said the caterpillar. The caterpillar called after her. There's something important to say. Well, this sounded promising, certainly. Alice turned and came back again. Keep your temper, said the caterpillar. Is that all? Said Alice, swallowing down her anger as well as she could. No, said the caterpillar. Alice thought she might as well wait, as she had nothing else to do, and perhaps, after all, it might tell her something worth hearing. For some minutes, it puffed away without speaking, but at last it unfolded its arm, took the hookah out of its mouth, and said again, so you think you've changed, huh? I'm afraid I am, sir, said Alice. I can't remember things as I used, and I don't keep the same size for 10 minutes together. Well, can't remember what things, said the caterpillar. Well, I tried to say, how doth the little busy bee, but it came out different, replied Alice in a very melancholy tone. And if you guys remember, melancholy, sad. Remember all that disrespect y'all said about melancholy and the infinite sadness? Smashing Pumpkins. I remember. Repeat. You are old, Father William, said the caterpillar. Alice folded her hands and began. Okay. I'm gonna read you this poem, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So the thing about this poem is that the illustrations are hilarious. And the original version of this poem that was famous before this book came out. So if you were a kid and you were seeing this part, you would know the original one. So the original one is about this young guy. He talks to this old guy. And then the young guy is like, Father William, tell me all of your wisdom because you're old and you know things. And you're like an elder and I respect you. And then the old guy is like, here's a life lesson. And then he gives him a life lesson. He's like, Father William, tell me more of your wisdom. And then the second stanza is like, here's your life lesson, and the life lessons are you should, I don't know. I don't remember it. Use your time wisely, eat your fruits and vegetables, whatever. It's very solid life advice. So Alice, because the caterpillar is telling her, is going to read this poem, except as different. So let me show you the first illustration. It is Zeus, which is excellent. Here's the young guy. Here's Father William. He is on his head. You are old, Father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white. And yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right? In my youth, said Father William replied to his son, I feared it might injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why I do it again and again. So no problem with standing on your head if you got no brains, because like you're not damaging anything. Here's the next illustration. Yes. Here's the sun. Here's Father William. He is like doing acrobatics and he's lost his hat. You are old, said the youth, as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason of that? In my youth, said the sage as he shook his great locks, I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple? You are old, said the youth. This one is my favorite one. Actually, this is my second favorite one. So let me show you. Here is the illustration, right? Here's the young guy, and there's Father William, and there's this thing. Okay. Claire, yes, it is very strange, but it's kind of awesome strange. You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet, which is a kind of pudding, right? You don't need tough jaws to eat suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones in the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? So, he's asking, you're old, you've got like weak jaws. How did you manage to eat? Yeah, oh, yes, he is very rude to him. He is. Okay, but also the older gentleman is kind of sassy back to him, so, how'd you manage to do it? Okay, this is my favorite response. In my youth, said his father, I took to the law and argued each case with my wife. And the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life. So you kids who are watching who are like super argumentative with each other, that's what he's saying. He's saying like, yeah, I used to argue law cases all the time, like with my wife, and it made my jaw real strong. So, maybe you guys are getting strong jaws from all the talking back. You know who you are. I'm just saying it. You are old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? Yep, he's got the eel on his nose. Bye, Paul. And at this point, Father William is like not answering any more questions. I have answered 3 questions and that is enough, said his father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off or I'll kick you downstairs. And on this like very tender poem, I think we're going to leave off today because we've gone over a little bit. So, argue a whole lot so you get a strong jaw. Balance eels on your noses. If you come across sassy caterpillars, don't be sassy back. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh, I'll see you guys on Monday. So have a really, really good weekend. All right. Bye, guys. Oh, my favorite color. Okay. Claire is asking my favorite color in the Uno card deck. It's gotta be red. It's red. It's red, Claire. Like my lipstick. Okay. Bye, guys. Oh, Spanish. Yes. Tess. I am sorry. I forgot. Okay. Let's do some animal ones for Tess. And it's okay if the rest of you guys have gone. So here's Bill. He's a lizard, which is this is a hard word, but it's a great word. Lagartija. Es un lagartija. So that's Bill. And aquí está, okay, un perro que es grande es un perro, right? A dog that's like a big dog is a dog. Es un perro. But this, even though it's a gigantic size, it's a young dog, which we call a cachorro. Un cachorro, but nobody says cachorro. Everybody says cachorrito, because it's like a little puppy. So un cachorro is a puppy, and un cachorrito is a little puppy. So this is Alice y su cachorrito. Okay? So lagartija and cachorrito. All right. Bye-bye.